What's up? Welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thanks for being here, being subbed. If you're not, hit the button. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit that like. It's like walking in the room and hitting that light switch. Let's brighten up the place and get into the politics and BS. What's up, you guys? I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, and I'm actually working on a different news channel at this point because I'm just trying to get it together. But anyway, this is nothing shocking, and I really wanted to just share this from it's just frustrating because I understand, and I was going to do a video talking about this because there were these people who call themselves FBAs, which is something that is I would never call myself, but it's supposed to stand for Foundational Black Americans. But one of the reasons why I would never call myself that is because it was created by a grifter, and I stand on that. And the person who created that, it was a take from the ADOS movement, which is the American descendants of slaves, and it was all about reparations. But the so-called FBA people, they call themselves people who are not going to vote. They're tired of being on the Democratic plantation, and Trump ain't any worse than Obama because Obama didn't do nothing for the black people. And I'm just so sick of people talking like that because those are usually the ones that usually don't even vote. They didn't probably even vote for Obama. And if they did, they probably only voted for him once. And not really knowing how politics works, they don't even vote locally. And this country is just so embedded in hatred and systemic racism that, yeah, they may have gotten stuff for other ethnicities, but yeah, slaves built this nation. And you're not going to get reparations. You're just not. I'm not saying that it's okay and it's fair, but it's not. But they will slam people like Roland Martin, who, yeah, he can be over the top a lot of times. I'm not saying that I agree with everything that he says, but they will slam people like Roland Martin and other African Americans who they may not be 100% all on board for Democrats to say that they do everything right because they don't. They don't. That's why I don't subscribe to either party. But you damn sure are going to be better off if you're just thinking about living in this nation than if you were to just leave everything into all of the Republicans' hands. And all they do, for the most part, is cheat. Because if they win all of these elections by landslides, then why do they have to do all of this gerrymandering and all of these different things to redistrict? Because they know that the majority does not want things to be the way that they're trying to make it be. So if 45/47 is so busy doing all of these amazing things for the country, why is he so hell-bent on turning back the hands of time when it comes to history, and not only turning back the hands of time, but whitewashing and erasing history where things terrible did happen in the past, and instead of correcting, you just want to you want to remove it. You want to remove it. So instead of just claiming the history and correcting things, you want to remove it. Slavery was bad, okay? It was bad. And I remember being in school and in history classes, there was not a whole lot that was said in those history books even back then about slavery, but I can tell you, I remember there being pictures in the history books where it was just making it look like the slaves were just some maids and some field hands. They didn't make it look like these people were getting beaten, RAPED'd, and all of the other things that were happening to these people. They just, had a few images where it was drawn, where it was making it look like the black women were hanging clothes on the line and the black men were in the fields picking cotton, but it was like it was a regular job. So even back then, the history was not that great in schools, let's be clear. But this person who's supposed to be so busy making America great again, which is some bullcrap, he's got time to deal with things in the Smithsonian. Are you freaking kidding me? So the story is he's threatening to dismantle exhibitions from the Smithsonian museums that discuss how bad slavery was. The museums throughout Washington, but all over the country, are essentially the last remaining segment of woke. And I can't stand that freaking word, because if anybody has any sense, you should know that you should be woke. And what I mean by that is being awake, being aware, knowing what's going on. This is so telling. I had to talk to somebody about this. It was an older Caucasian woman who I'm friendly with, because she was talking about, and I broke it down. I said, "Do you know that being woke is not a bad thing? The people who are, they're using that word and they're flipping it. They're trying to make it seem like woke means gay, pink and purple hair, um, piercings all throughout your face, tattoos all over your body, the LGBTQ community, and transgenders. Well, that's in the LGBTQ community, but transgenders playing female sports and all that other stuff, which it's not. I said they're making it a horrible thing when being woke is a good thing, because they essentially want you to be asleep. I said, because what is the opposite of being awake? It's being asleep, right? I said the powers that be and the people who are in authority, especially now, they want you to be asleep, because they want to steamroll you with all of the things that are going on that are not going to be beneficial for you living in this nation, because all they care about is the top 1 to 3%. They do not care about you. Okay? Anyway, continuing this BS, the Smithsonian is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future. We are not going to allow this to happen. And I have instructed my attorneys to go through the museums and start the exact same process that has been done with colleges and universities, where tremendous progress has been made. This country cannot be woke, because woke is broke. We have the hottest country in the world, and we want people to talk about it, including in our museums. This is such nonsense. Guys, I am so disgusted with this, and the people who consistently, because I'm going to tell you, there are people out there, multiple ethnicities, which some people don't have any sympathy for them, and I can understand that, who are saying, "Yeah, I did vote for him and I regret my vote." But I'm gonna tell you, there is a large population of people, especially blacks, who are saying, "Yeah, I voted for him and I would not take it back, and I would vote for him again, and I am proud of it." Those are the people that you really can't do nothing with, because of pride. The reason why they're this way is because they pretty much want to ignore what's going on and sit in their state of pride to say, "I didn't do anything wrong. I'm happy about what I did, because Kamala was this and Kamala was that, and Barack Obama this and Hillary Clinton that." None of these people who are in office, right? They're blaming all of the people for why they voted for him, and they will not regret it, even though internally they may, but they will not publicly admit it. So they may internally regret it, but they will never publicly admit it because of pride. And we know what the word of God says: pride comes before a fall, pride comes before destruction. So a lot of these people who claim to be so woke, those are the same ones who claim to be woke, right? Black FBAs, they're the ones that voted for this, and they will try to ignore it as if it means nothing. But this is the type of stuff that this dangerous orange orangutan is doing to this nation. Slavery was bad. It will never be something that will be a good thing. It never was a good thing, ever. And from what I heard, he owned slaves in Dubai. But that's another story for another day. And I'm talking about present day. I'm not talking about years ago. So this is the person that they say that they are happy that they voted for. This man, it's like, dude, you're 2 steps away from the grave. You're 79 years old. Your best days are behind you. You have more days behind you than you have ahead of you. So why is it that you are so hell-bent on whitewashing history when you're about to be history? A terrible chapter in our history, might I add. And a lot of us cannot wait for him to be history. But the thing about it is, he is just a piece of that puzzle. There's so many people that are in positions of authority who agree with him. And it's so terrible that these people cannot just say, you know what, this is a terrible thing that happened in the past. Let's work to correct it. Let's claim the history and work to correct it. No, they care more about their personal feelings about a situation. I don't like that people are blaming me for what happened in the past. No one's blaming you, sweetheart, but it is something that happened. And if they continue to do things that are making people's lives tragedy and terrible in today's times, then it does make people feel like you were okay with that. I could go on and on about this subject, but like I said, I wanted to keep this short. So you guys let me know your thoughts about that in the comments. And Jillian Michaels is a fool. Now, listen, I didn't talk about this before, but I'm talking about it now because the thing about it is she adopted a child from Haiti. Okay. So for her to be so angry about the fact that people are upset that he is wanting to whitewash history, she said that he wasn't trying to do it. And this was before he did this post on social media talking about going through the Smithsonian museums to erase and remove things that talk about slavery as being a bad thing. She just said about a week or so ago that he's not trying to whitewash history. So maybe he saw what she said on CNN and he said, oh, let me go call her bluff and let her know, yeah, I am saying that slavery was a bad thing and that I want to whitewash history. Because she was on CNN and she had the most ridiculous things to say. So let's just go ahead and get into this.
Literally reviewing parts of American history and parts of American culture to make sure it comports with Dear Leader and what the MAGA
Can we address
wants.
some of those things that are in there? Because have you looked at some of the things that are being reviewed?
Slavery was a bad thing that was to talk about.
Okay,
like he's
not whitewashing slavery. So
he's not.
He's not. No,
okay,
he's not. And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about the fact that when you
anti-slavery,
let's talk about the fact
slavery in America was.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans owned slaves?
But it was a system of white supremacy.
Jillian, I'm surprised that you're trying to litigate who was the beneficiary of slavery and who was not.
What I'm trying to tell you is that
in the context of American history.
Okay.
In the context of American history, what are you saying is incorrect by saying that it was white people oppressing black people?
Every single thing is like, oh, no, this is all because white people bad.
You have a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I do,
what
because
exactly
because here's the thing.
Are you talking about?
Okay, it's been completely captured.
First of all, I don't.
And it's totally partisan.
We don't. First of all, we don't have time to litigate all of this.
Of course we don't, because then you're going to lose the argument. And everything is racialized, just like you're trying to do to me now.
Excuse me.
It's like, I can't believe you're trying to suggest, that slavery
just to
is
be clear, you brought up race.
No,
this was a conversation about the arts, and you brought up race.
It isn't.
You brought up,
but the whole point of this is that the issue
you brought up slavery, and you brought up the question of whether you brought up the question of whether or not slavery in the United States is about race. The answer is
no, I
yes.
Didn't. I did not say
in the United States.
Don't straw man my argument, because that's not what I said.
So what are you talking about?
Slavery.
We're now literally.
Let me tell you something. This B, she adopted that kid. I'm saying it like this. This is my personal opinion, and I got the right to say it. I believe she got that kid from Haiti so that kid could clean up her house. Anybody who thinks like this, who speaks this way, and they adopted a child that is another ethnicity from them, I don't care if the kid was Hispanic, but it happens to be Haitian. When this dude, when he was in the race the last time and they gave it to him, because I wouldn't say he won anything. He was talking about Haitians eating cats and dogs. She adopted a Haitian child, first of all. And two, for her to slay, it's like it's people like her who feel this way. It's always about their personal feelings. You weren't back then. You're here now. And you're living a splendid life. I am quite sure. So why is it that you care so much more about your feelings versus the systemic racism that is happening in this nation that literally is keeping people in positions of poverty, not allowing them to excel, because all of this bullcrap about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, they don't give anyone anything just simply because they are another ethnicity or another gender. The DEI was all about opening up the opportunities because it was primarily going to white men and maybe sprinkling in a few white women here and there. So DEI actually benefited white women like her more, and the heifer happens to be in the LGBTQ community out, and he can't stand them. And he's doing so. It's like she really is troubled if she is supporting this man. But again, for her, it's more about being white over being a woman and being a lesbian who also adopted a Haitian child. But she cares more about her feelings. Oh my God, you're always talking about how terrible slavery was. Bitch, it was bad. Okay? And you care more about your feelings than the descendants of slaves who will never get reparations in this nation. And this man is actively doing things to roll back the rights that people fought, bled, and died for over the years. I never thought that I would be living in a time where things would be rolled back, because I may not have had to be out in the streets like my ancestors and former family members were, dealing with racism, dealing with lynching, and all of the terrible things that has happened in the past, because of all of the things that they fought for, that I have been able to benefit from living in today's times. I never thought that I would be living in a time where things would be rolled back. But those who are forgetting history are doomed to repeat it. And they're literally not trying to forget it. They're literally trying to erase it so that it is forgotten, so that hopefully it would be repeated. And this is so disgusting. So for her to talk about only 2% owned slaves, well, girl, a whole big percentage of them were keeping those slaves in check. They were lynching, they were spitting on, they were raping and impregnating. Not every Black woman or girl, because let's be clear, they were doing it to children too, that got pregnant and had a what they used to call mulatto, was had that done by a plantation owner or a slave owner. So many terrible things happen. So I don't care if only 2% of white Americans own slaves, which I do not believe. But yeah, that was a privilege for people who actually had more, had more of the financial ability to buy them. Of course, not every white person owns slaves. We know this. But I don't care if only 2% own slaves. They help to keep them in line and keep them in that position. What percentage of them were lynching? What percentage of them were chasing and burning crosses and all of the terrible things? I mean, there's just so many things that we could talk about that I really don't want to talk about, but it doesn't mean just because I don't want to talk about it, it shouldn't be talked about. It shouldn't be displayed. It is supposed to be there because you're not supposed to forget the history. You're supposed to say, damn, these terrible things happened in the past. Let's move forward and do it the right way. Let's claim the history and correct it. But no, they want to erase it. I can't stand this chick. Never, was into The Biggest Loser and all that other, bull. But yeah, I really just wanted to touch on that real quick because I really feel that this is stuff that they do. And then those people who claim that, they're Black, but they don't want to hear Roland Martin and any person who is a Democrat talk about how they made a mistake. They do it out of the sake of pride because they don't want nobody to tell them that they were wrong. They don't want to admit that they were wrong. But yet they won't talk about stuff like this, but you'll see them doing videos about other stuff, but they won't talk about this stuff. They leave that alone. They don't touch on it at all. Philip Scott, Tariq Nasheed, just to name a few. So, it's clowns like this. They won't ever talk about stuff like that. Tim Scott is this shucking and jiving Negro from South Carolina who really loves to be the only one that looks like him, and he's extremely ugly, but I'm talking about the skin color. He wants to be the only one like him to be in the room with people like this. And people like this don't even like him at all. Nikki Haley put him in a position in Senate, and he's been able to stay there. He ran for office. He had not a snowball's chance in hell of gaining the nomination, but he actually thought he had a chance of being this orange creep's VP pick. He doesn't even have a cabinet position, okay? But he's still shining shoes, shucking and jiving, hucking and bucking to be in the presence of people like this. And it's a damn shame because you will never hear him talk about the things that they're talking about right now. Do you think he will come out and say that I am so against what 45/47 is trying to do with the Smithsonian museums, our history, although it was tragic, it needs to be in these museums so that we can remember our history, and those who are new can see what happened and see how far we've come, which, I mean, shit, they're trying to take us back. But I'm saying, do you think he would ever come out here and say anything about that? No. When he was running for president, he made a little small honorable mention about what was happening in Florida when it comes to history, saying that slaves actually learned skills that helped them to be able to get jobs in the future. But that was only because he was running against Ron DeSantis. So that was just to try to gain a few votes. And it didn't work. So now he's back to shining shoes, shucking and jiving, hucking and bucking, and not talking about things like this because he doesn't feel like it's important. All he cares about is himself and the contract that he has with the woman that he married, in my personal opinion, because I don't know this woman, but I know people that know her. I am from South Carolina, and I've heard a lot of things, guys, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay? A lot of these people will do anything for the sake of their position in politics. They don't care anything about the people. They don't represent anyone but themselves. But I want to know what you guys think, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for being here, liking, and subscribing. I'm Beth, just being beautifully honest. So until next time, I wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.